Download the Millennium News24 app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Stay tuned with Millennium TV and Millennium News24 for the latest updates.
Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome viewers around the world and right here in the United States of America. This is Universal Pathway and I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Ill. Today I have the opportunity to be in the studio with my good brother, Grand Sheik William Osiris Amaru Bey. He hailed from Oakland, California. It's truly an honor to see you here today, beloved. With that being said, I'm gonna take the opportunity to give a brief introduction to him. Grand Sheik William Osiris Amaru Bey is a dedicated community leader, educator, and entrepreneur whose life works reflect service, uplift, and empowerment of his community. A native Oakland Californian, he has become a guiding force in the Moorish Science Temple of America, known for his ability to inspire, unify with resilience and positive change within his community. For several years, Grand Sheik William Bey has demonstrated exceptional leadership, spearheading programs and fundraisers designed to uplift communities and provide vital support for those in need. His deep commitment to Moorish teachings and the mission of Prophet Noble Drew Ali shines through his active role in advancing the cause of Moorish unity in his community, and the reach is also getting globally. In addition to his service as a Grand Sheik, William Osiris Amaru Bey is a respected physical education teacher. His background in education and wellness has equipped him with a profound understanding of the importance of physical health, discipline, and the value of imparting these principles to the next generation. By connecting physical well-being with spiritual development, he exemplified a holistic type of leadership. With that being said, Grand Sheik William Bey is also involved in national initiatives, including collaborative work with the National Grand Sheik of the United Moorish Science Temple of America on land development in Hawaii on the Big Island, an investment rooted in the vision of Moorish independence, stewardship, and collective progress. He started the Moorish Times newsletter which inspired the Moorish Times newspaper press, which served as a collective effort of the United Moorish Science Temple of America, as we share aspect of the Moorish American worldview. Beyond education and spiritual leadership, he has stepped into the entrepreneurial sphere with his clothing line, The Chosen Few. His venture reflects his dedication to cultural expression, identity, innovation, creating apparel that embodies Moorish pride and excellence. Through his multifaceted contributions, spanning education, community, leadership, land development, and entrepreneurship, Grand Sheik William Osiris Amaru Bey stand as a driving force in the journey toward a stronger, healthier, and more unified Moorish nation. It's truly an honor to be in the studio with you today, Grand Sheik. How are you?
Islam, alhamdulillah, all is truly well. Thank you for the warm introduction, my good brother. And it's an honor to be here. High honors to your staff and the opportunity to be on, Universal Pathways and Millennium News. It's truly an honor to be here, Brother Curtis Douglas Hill. Islam.
Indeed. With that being said, praise Allah and honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, all divine prophets, honors to Marcus Messiah Garvey, and honors to you as well, my good brother, for being here. I know as myself, also a Grand Sheik within the capacity of the temples that we're part of the United Moorish Science Temple of America, you yourself, we always give those honors as well. So I'm just giving the opportunity to do that as well.
Islam. I rise high on this heaven, giving perfect praise to Allah, the author, the creator, the governor of the world, the almighty, eternal, incomprehensible, the one who is supreme, most wise, and beneficent. And him alone belongs worship, adoration, thanksgiving, and praise. Islam. I give honor to all true and divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. I give honor to my illustrious and industrious forefathers, the harbinger Marcus Messiah Garvey, and the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I also give honors to the listening audience. I greet you all with the humble words of peace. Islam.
Islam. Awesome. Awesome. I really have been looking forward to this interview. and we had an earlier date. We had to change it around, and it's just a beautiful thing to be here. I was speaking to you off camera just now before the show that we both have daughters, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And with that being said, it's always just great to get some nuggets from you as it pertains to that. But with that being said, you've been the Grand Chief of the Moore Science Temple of America in California. Um, I just want to kind of just open up with, what are some of the guiding principles that you basically emphasize within the community? Because you all do a lot of charity work,
Islam. Islam.
but what are some of those guiding principles that really give you that motivation to be out there doing some of the work that the Oakland Band of Moore has been doing under your leadership?
Islam. Gratitude. Forever rising. Some of the divine principles, that we're taught here in the Moore Science Temple of America by way of our master teacher and our Redeemer, Noble Drew Ali, is the highest principles known to man, which are love, true peace, freedom, and justice. To reflect, in chapter 2, it talks about love being the only savior of the world. So I love to emphasize the highest principle of love whenever I'm out doing our community work, whenever I'm representing what it is to be a Moorish American. Love is a saving power. Love conquers hate. So I always try to emphasize that being a Moorish American, we come in love, we come in peace. And in Spanish, amor means love. So I want to be that walking love in the flesh. So whenever I'm out representing or being a missionary of the Moorish Science Temple of America, I always want to come with the uplifting energy of love in our demonstration. So I try to be as compassionate as I can be, but there's also other principles that I try to implement into my character, like consistency, discipline, prudence, temperance, modesty, things of that nature. So, but I think the most important thing that our people need in our community is to be reminded on how to love instead of hate. In our community here in Oakland, as me being a native for the last 39, 40 years, I recognize that my city is a little different now. And
Mhm.
it's filled with a little more hatred, coming up now in this society that's governed almost by social media. We see how fast hatred spreads. So I understand the message from our Prophet Noble Drew Ali that we need to be reminded to love instead of hate. So that's a moving principle that I always try to demonstrate. I always want to try to give love and not demand love in return. And utilize that principle of love because I believe that that attribute and that energy is our overall salvation. So,
Wow. You answer well, my good brother. Definitely. And you're the embodiment of that. And what I mean by that is, just to share with our listening audience, I myself have been around the Moorish movement for a very long time. And when I first met you, I actually took a journey to California
that's all.
based on the suggestion of another Moorish American that the Oakland Band of Moors were Moors that were living according to these principles: love, truth, peace, friend, justice, clean and pure demonstration. So I just want to confirm that I've only received nothing but love. And you were the first Moor that greeted myself and my daughter
Oh,
when we
praise
flew to
Allah.
Oakland. So honest to you for that. And you definitely showed us a lot of love. And it's only been consistent. So with that being said, you could not have answered more appropriately because your thought words indeed match up. So
It's
which
all praise
brings me
Allah.
into the next question, which is tied in. What was it that inspired you? Because at that time when I met you about 3 years ago, you were an assistant Grand Sheik to the now National Grand Sheik Nathaniel Booth Ill, affectionately known by his pen name Cosmo Ill. Um, you were his assistant at that time, but now you're the Grand Sheik of the Oakland Band of Moors. So, what inspired you to actually want to take on such leadership role at such an early time in your Moorish venture?
Islam. Wonderful question. And that's a question that I often ask myself. When I came into the Moorish movement, I didn't come into it with the ambition to be in leadership. I think it was something that was already maybe in my personality from my upbringing, by way of maybe youth sports. I played a lot of sports when I was younger, and I was always in the leadership role. I may not have been the best player per se, But being a point guard, I took on those leadership characteristics. I wanted people to be in the right position. I believed in the concept that teamwork makes the dream work. And I just wanted to put my community and my family and my peers in a position to succeed. So, with that comes the opportunity to be a leader. As you described, I was the assistant Grand Sheik, which I held a couple of different stations in the early development of our Oakland Temple. I was a secretary, I was a mutif, and right before our national Grand Sheik, our now national Grand Sheik Cosmo Ill left, he appointed me to be his assistant Grand Sheik. And when he took on his journey of going to go live out in Hawaii, he sat me down and he asked me, like, what are we going to do with the temple? And me being, as we described, a native of Oakland, I'm like, well, the Oakland Temple has to stay open.
Mm.
So, I took on the responsibility of saying that, I'll do my best to keep the doors open. And with that information, we sat down and he appointed me as Grand Sheik in the Oakland Temple. So I think that the idea of leadership itself is a service to the community. So um, it was just kind of like, the moving forward of my development, was to be appointed as Grand Sheik. So it was nothing that I sought out to have, but it was something that was stowed upon me. So I took it on, and I'm just trying to do my best to represent the Moorish Science Temple of America and Moorish Americans all over the nation and all over the world. My portion of understanding of what it is to be a leader and to be a Grand Sheik in this new era in time. So it's been humbling. I didn't come to take on this mantle of leadership or Grand Sheik, but it's been ordained that we be in this sacred school and be taught. These type of things are just confirmation that we're living in our purpose, and I'm in the right place, doing my best to do the right thing. So it was through the will of Allah, to make it to be brief and simple. So
Indeed. And I must say, honest to you for being able to take on that mantle. I mean, I've seen you in so much capacity. Like you said, you wear many hats, or in this instance, you wear a lot of fezzes.
Islam.
And not only that, too, from a business perspective, at one point, um, y'all had, you know, there was a store attached. The space itself, the temple was utilized for various different things, uh, arts and craft and different things of that nature. So very active in the Oakland community, and your charity work is tremendous, working with one of the Islamic community out there in Oakland as well. So again,
Islam.
honest to you and all that you all are doing, but
Right.
kind of like just bridge into just you mentioned just the hands-on aspect. I think you and I were speaking again too before the interview start. From 4 to 18, you interact with children from such an early age all the way up to the teenage years. Physical education, yourself now being in sport. And I like the way you said it, that you've always been a team player. You might not be the best, but I
Islam.
see that you strive to be able to now carry out your duty as it pertains to that team effort. And that's how you approach leadership in the Moorish Science Temple of America as well, where you held a post. And from holding a post, now you're actually the grand sheik in that post, like literally
Islam.
keeping the door open. So, with that being said, can you speak a little bit to how do you connect physical wellness with spiritual upliftment and community responsibility, as taught within the more science um, uh, circle, or just in general, what you've not even gleaned from growing up in Oakland with your parents, who, like you said, still together, right?
Islam. Islam. Yes. 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 Wonderful question. And the body, the physical aspect of the body, I think is directly connected and correlated to your spirituality. To take care of the body, you have to be disciplined, you have to be obedient, you have to be consistent. And those same principles are needed to grow spiritually. When we look at our physical appearance, when you see somebody that's been dedicated to the gym and their body shows it, you look at them in the light like, okay, that person cares about themselves. That person is disciplined. That person is consistent. That he or she goes to the gym when they don't want to or they don't feel like it. But that's the same demonstration when you don't feel like going to work. Sometimes you don't feel like doing these things. So you have to practice these principles of self, of studying self. And yes, I am a basketball coach, and I train and I run a couple of basketball camps. And I'm aware that these athletes, very very small percentage of them will make it pro. You know, maybe less than 1%. So what we're doing is we're teaching life principles through the activity of basketball. You know, we're teaching them to be consistent. We're teaching them teamwork. We're teaching them integrity. We're teaching them sincerity. We're teaching them how to take instructions and through physical education. You know, so we try to make it fun because if you're untrained in these principles as an adult, we both know that it's not very fun, you know. So we try to give it to the children, 4 through 18 years old. We like to fix the bends and the inclinations early, as is
Mhm.
taught in the chapter on children in our the Holy Quran of the Most High Temple of America. And that's what I try to do, you know, try to make it fun, try to teach them to take care of their bodies, you know. I'm 40 years old now. Spiritually, I do feel like I'm still 21, early 20s, but physically, it takes a toll on you if you don't take care of your body physically throughout your development, you know. So we want to be here as long as possible. We want to be here for our families, for our community, for our peers, to do our best to uplift fallen humanity. And that takes taking care of this physical body, and it's directly correlated in my personal experience to taking care of yourself spiritually also, because it takes participating in those same principles of constancy, of obedience, discipline, to grow both spiritually and physically. So I think it's one and the same from my own perspective in teaching the children. So I just try to correlate the two that way. So
Awesome. Just to also connect, just the teaching the children, and like you said, the physicality connects with the spirituality. As an educator, um, how would you say also connecting with more teaching and more science and a more Sunday school being there? And I know it's been said that every temple should have a school,
it's
right?
long. It's
So
long.
with yourself being in education, and every temple should have a school, and every temple have a school by default by the more Sunday school. Out of the Sunday school comes to God as the nation. So with that being said, do you see the capability to bridge the gap between the indoctrination, for instance, that come from the secular school system, where the children, for instance, melanated children are indoctrinated and they're not really taught the heritage of just the
Hmm.
rich history that they have connected to this land? And how do you see the connection between that and the conversion rate now, where they now have the interest to want to be a Moorish American, know more about their nationality, as opposed to a quote unquote Black History Month,
It's
etc.,
long.
bridging the gap between divine instructions, helping with their spirituality, as opposed to the indoctrination that comes by going to a school that is more colonized influence, just getting them
It's
to
long.
get a good job.
Islam. Wonderful question. And yes, I've been working in the educational field now for a little over a year. And wow, the experience has been so humbling because now I can come from the school of Noble Drew Ali and now see the difference in what they're teaching our children versus what we need to be taught as Moorish Americans. The Prophet told us to take these and save yourself and get your house in order. And the newer, younger generation is being taught and influenced by a broader span of influences. Now they can go onto their tablets, they can go into technology, social media, and be um, taught or imprinted upon by people that may not look like you or have the interests of the household. I like to say that when we were younger, we had what I called a good home training. And I think that our Asiatic community now today, we've lost our home training. We lost the essence that the mother is the first teacher, and you learn a lot of these principles of who you are at home first. And when you go to school, you express those teachings from what you learned at home now in the classroom. Now we live in a society and a community where we no longer believe in the essence of it takes a community to raise a child, it takes a village to raise a child.
That's right.
Now we're less open to other people being able to teach and criticize or help out our brothers and sisters. So when I go into to work now, I see that that's missing. Now I recognize more than ever that these teachings is our salvation. We need to remember the principles of love, true peace, freedom, and justice. We need to know that we're Moorish Americans. We need to know of our nationality and divine creed, because when they step into the educational system now, they're not teaching you any of that. You've been indoctrinated with what they deem history is, and it's for their own propaganda, as we use, because it's important that we don't know ourselves so that we can easily be taught misinformation. And they teach you young, from 4 years old to 18 years old. You're in their school of thought. That's 14 years.
That's right.
And after you get all of that information for so long, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, then when you come out into the world and you meet somebody like myself or yourself, and they say, hey, you're a Moorish American, that you're not black, you're not African American, Negro, black, or colored. As the prophet said, they jump through hoops to defend what they've already learned. So working in the educational field and around educators that have master degrees and doctrines, when I bring up the idea that we're not a color, we're not black. Black is an adjective. We're Moorish American. They say no, no, we're black. And when you say we're not black, you're being disrespectful to our history. When really, I'm trying to bring clarity to our true history, because we didn't start off as slaves. That wasn't the beginning of our history. Yes, it was a part of our history, but we have industrious and illustrious foremothers and forefathers that did wonderful, beautiful things. So I truly believe the younger that we teach the children, will give them a better opportunity to understand the proper teachings. So I like to say, we teach the youngsters early what we learn late. I didn't get this information until I was in my 30s. I didn't know what a feds was until I was 32, 33 years old. So when I'm in the classrooms, when I'm around my peers and the students, I correct them. Around, they know at this point around me, you can't say that you're black. Mr. Bay gonna correct you. You're at the very least a Moorish American. If you don't agree with that, go do some research.
That's right.
But we do exercises where we do self portraits, and this is just kind of an example of what I'm describing. We do self portraits, and Crayola has a box of crayons where they have 18 different colors of wheats of brown. So we're telling the children to draw an image of themselves and to match the color with their hand. But then when they're done with that, we turn around and call them black. But they
Wow.
didn't paint their faces black, like, and we can see as educators that we're misleading them early, because if we tell them now, it's not as confusing. It's actually simple and plain.
That's
But
right.
it's as you get indoctrinated throughout those 14 years of being so-called educated, is to where you defend and jump through hoops to fight what you've been indoctrinated with. So being um, in the school district, and now realizing how important it is for us to have our own school, which we have with our Sunday schools, where we are creating the guiders of the nation. So we have to make sure that our children are involved in the classroom, make it interactive during Sunday school. We don't want to come and just open up the books and kind of make them sit there and they don't really know what we're talking about with this divine message. We want to make it easier and more digestible and fun to be a Moorish American, make it more attractive, make it more magnetic. And that's what I've been trying to learn in the with my experiences with working with children. How can we make this fun again to be a Moorish American and to truly learn who you are? So I've written a book, the ABCs for the Moorish American family. I created comic books and coloring books and things of that nature, so that they can see images of themselves, so they can participate in the rich history and know themselves, rather than uh, sitting down and learning history that's really destroying their mind and being misleading to their history. So it's been a wonderful experience for the study of self, because ultimately I want to be able to have our own school, and I've been able to see the possibilities of man when I was able to visit Hawaii this past summer. I met a Moorish American brother that has a school, and he's getting it done. And it shows me and it inspired me that I can do the same here in Oakland. So, I hope that answered your question. Islam.
Oh, most definitely. I think you're speaking about Brother Dwight Reed Ill. Honest to the brother.
Islam.
Uh,
Islam. High honors to the brother.
yes, great industrious work that he's doing out there. He's a part of the temple. that's ran in Hawaii by the National Grand Chief Nathaniel Booth Ill. Beautiful work that they're doing out there. But also, when you were speaking, you mentioned that the Prophet Noble Ali, he, you know, you paraphrase and saying he brought us everything it takes, right? What are those everything? What are those books that you were referring to?
I was referencing the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, the 101 question for Moorish Americans, our Moorish literature, our divine constitution and bylaws. He gave us all the literature and information it takes to restore a nation. And through my own experiences and studying this prophetic work, I see that it's working for me and it's working for my family and my peers and our Oakland Band of Moors and our United Moorish Science Temple of America as we grow both into individually and collectively. I see that this is our earthly and divine salvation. So when I first got the Circle Seven, it was interesting because I wasn't in the Morrison Temple of America. I just ordered it from Amazon and I opened it up. And the introduction described this information is for those who love Jesus. And I was like, what? I was confused because from my understanding, I'm like, Christianity was doing more harm than it was helping our people. And that was just my perspective. We all have our own portions of understanding. So it took for me to enter the Moorish Science Temple of America. It's a beautiful article written in our literature where it's the voice of the prophet, and it describes if you have race pride and love your race, join the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you will know who you are and who your forefathers were. He also said this is a position, a station made for strong men and women who think their condition can be better. And that really, really was profound and stood out to me because living in Oakland, I saw that our condition was changing, and I wanted our condition to be better. So this information, as I continue to study it and embody it and add these characteristics and attributes to myself, I see that it's been working for me. I've been able to clean up and purify. I've been able to rid myself from some of the five foes of man, as we know, is instability, inconstancy, insufficiency of knowledge, weakness, and misery. Some of the issues that our people are fighting with today. Our people are dealing with mental illness like no time ever maybe in history, and it's because they don't know themselves. They've been led astray. They haven't been able to study thyself. And as the prophet talks about in chapter 3, he says, if you were to ask me what to study, I would say yourselves. And well, you have studied them. Then when ask me what to study next, I would say yourselves. So this is a perpetual study of self. And now we're being distracted with so much propaganda and things that don't mean nothing. Our attention span is probably the shortest it's ever been. It's hard to keep adults' attention for over a minute. So just imagine how it's affecting our children. So again, this information was brought back to us in 1913. That was over 100 years ago.
That's right.
And Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he prophesied that the Moors at that time wouldn't even be able to understand and comprehend exactly what he left. And now, 100 and some years later, we're still, having petty arguments or disagreements here in our Moorish paradigm at times. But if we are really to just sit down and recognize the foundational teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, we see that this is our only salvation. We're a salvaged nation, but we have to follow the instructions. We have to take heed to these divine laws. And if we work through them and be the light and walk into the light, then the signs and symbols for the conscious mind will resonate in our community, and people will come to inquire about what you've been studying in the Moorish Science Temple of America. And through these teachings, we can save ourselves. We can get our house in order. We can redefine what it is to be a father, a mother, a child of a Moorish American nation. So our community, the Asiatics here, at least in Oakland, I only speak for Oakland, is in disarray. And it's because it's the lack of knowledge, the insufficiency of knowledge. They don't study themselves and they're more caught up on try to gratify the lower self. And we know what the lower self breeds. It breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. A lot of our people don't even know that they have two selves. They believe that, oh, I'm a Leo. This is just how I am. Take me as I am. Or they don't know the higher self principles, and the higher self is the mother of virtues and the harmonies of life and breeds justice, mercy, love, and right. And that's what our community is missing at this time. So these teachings are right and exact for the salvation of our people. But I often say you have to be an active participant in your own salvation. They're not nobody's going to come and save you, and you're held accountable for your own actions. So
Indeed.
it's up
Indeed.
to us to be leaders. First off, in our homes, get our house in order, and then in our families, and then to the outer community. So these teachings have literally saved my life, Grand Sheik.
Wow.
It's alleviated the depression and the stress of not knowing what I'm here for. It
Mm,
gave me purpose. So now I wake up as a Moorish American missionary. We're propagating the faith of Muhammad here in America, and there's no place I'd rather be than in this sacred grove and be taught under my own vine and fig tree. So I believe that if our people was to take heed to the teachings and to drop the ego, drop the vanity, um, big me, little you, rich and the poor, then we'll rise back and take our station amongst the nations of the families of men. So um, I'm humbled to be able to have these teachings in my hands. I believe that our foremothers and forefathers prayed for the opportunity to alleviate the trials and tribulations that they went through. And it talks about how this information, these secrets were locked away for ages, for generations. And now it's right here for me in my little short window of being on the planet Earth. I get these teachings. Oh, I got to take heed. I have to be obedient because it's truly a blessing to have the opportunity to make correction. So,
indeed. Indeed. Well said, my brother. With that being said, this is Universal Pathways, and I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Ill. Today, I have on the show with me Grand Chief out of Oakland, our good brother, William Osiris Amaru Bay. We're going to go to a quick commercial, and we'll be right back after this 1 minute commercial. Welcome, viewers in America and those worldwide. This is Universal Pathway, and I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Ill. With our show, viewers get to hear our guests share their life lessons from a universal perspective so others can benefit. You can view us live at MillenniumTV24.com Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on all iOS and Android devices via our app. You can also view us on all smart TVs, Sony, Samsung, LG, also on Amazon, Fire Stick, Roku, Apple TV, Horizon Satellite, and most social media such as Facebook and YouTube. Please encourage others to come and view us with an open mind. Welcome back. This is Universal Pathways, and I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Ill. And today I have the opportunity to be in the studio with my good brother, the Grand Sheik out of Oakland, good brother William Osiris Bay. How you doing, my brother?
all is truly well. Thank you for the opportunity again this long.
Not a problem. You touched on something prior to the commercial, and you said much in regards to Prophet Noble Drew Ali and his work and just what he calls us to do, and just being reminded. A lot of times, people might see our fez, they might see and they think to be a Moorish American is something new. But in the teachings of the literature, it is said that why are we Moorish Americans mixed with descendants of Moroccans and born in America? So it's a people who've been a part of this land, coming back into the consciousness of who they are, who unfortunately has been miseducated, thinking that they were Black, thinking that they were Negro, thinking that they were colored. All these different names change every 20-something years. Now they're thinking they're African American, but not really connecting back to their descendant nature. And one of the things that is great in the Oakland community is your outreach.
This long.
And you all have done a tremendous work in regards to zakat, what is now in the Muslim world known as zakat, charity. Can you just speak a little bit to that? And what is it that really motivate y'all to be so given, in such a underserved community as Oakland? I mean, just speak to that a little bit.
Islam,
Yeah.
forever rising. And our just to camel back on what you're building upon, this that old time religion. This is what we've been practicing. I can recall just being younger, we used to all sit at the table and eat dinner together. You sit down with your family and you say, "Hey, pass me the potatoes. Hey, pass me the macaroni and cheese." We were sharing, we were loving each other.
Yes.
And I just have that same home training, so before National Grand Chic left, we were doing a hot meal giveaway the last Sunday of every month in our temple here in Oakland. So, sharing and charity was something that was implemented early in our development of our temple here in Oakland. Before National Grand Sheikh Cosmo Il left, he introduced us to an Islamic organization called the Islamic Cultural Center of Northern California. We call it ICCNC, and we were able to combine resources and build with that wonderful, wonderful group of Muslims in that organization. And every Wednesday, they give out food to the community. From about 9 a.m. to about 11 a.m., they give out produce. They give out fruits and vegetables. And again, the line is literally around the corner,
Wow.
so me myself, not knowing who I was for 30 odd years, I would say that I was living in sin.
Mm,
A sin is the ordinance against Allah, right?
that's
And it
right.
wasn't that I had gone to jail or hurt anybody, but I didn't know myself. So naturally, if you don't know yourself, you do things to gratify your lower self. It's described in chapter 3 that the lower self is rich in promise, but poor in blessedness and peace. It offers pleasure, joy, and satisfying gain, but gives unrest, misery, and death. It gives men apples that are lovely to the eye and pleasant to the smell, but the cores are full of bitterness and gall. So that's the kind of lifestyle I was living, alcoholism, all type of other behaviors that I'm not so proud of today, but it also was part of the journey. So honoring the five pillars of Islam, one of them being zakat and charity, I use it for myself as a purification ritual. I want to get back to my people. And I talked about, being a point guard in leadership. I always wanted to share. I always wanted to be helpful. I always wanted to move in the principles of love. So it was beautiful to be able to join resources with that wonderful organization, ICCNC. So for a long time, maybe 2 years, we would do the produce section of the demonstration to where at around 11 o'clock, we would clean up and kind of go on our way. But then one of the members, our brother Leon Hatcher Bay, he stayed a little longer. Maybe he was having a conversation with one of the members of the said organization, and they asked him, it's like, "Hey, we do hot meals also. So from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., we physically make food because sometimes when you're unhoused, as we call it, or homeless, whatever, you don't have a stove or a microwave, or you can't utilize the produce because you have nowhere to cook it.
That's right.
So they came up with the idea that they were prepared meals that's ready to eat. And it being an Islamic mosque, most of it would be healthy and halal for the most part. So we stayed one time and we saw that they put together maybe 200 hot meals, and it gave us an opportunity to be active and not passive. So we started to kind of load up our own personal vehicles and get out into the community and press hands with our brothers and sisters and remind them that we still love you. We know you're going through a hard time or whatever, and life is hard. We live in California. Inflation at this point, you miss two checks right now. That might be your neighbors. You might be homeless right next to them. So we was able to recognize that this is still our family, and we're also instructed to be missionaries as Moorish Americans. So I remember coming out of Ramadan, I think it was 2 years ago, we wanted to kind of make it a staple to kind of hang our fez on doing charity, and
Okay.
because not only it was a purification right for ourselves, but our city needed it.
Hmm.
So the members of the Morris Hunter Club America Oakland, we just made it a conscious effort to first off be sincere in
That's
our
right.
practice, but to also get out there and to utilize. the resource that ICCNC was providing. And after, I think it's been like 3 years now, Grand Sheik, now we feel obligated now to continue with the demonstration. Now when we go to the said areas, they happy to see us. We build bonds of affection with these brothers and sisters. And for the most part, it don't be the same people for the same 3 years. They're trying to uplift themselves, but those are my friends now. I know them on a first name basis at this point. We stop and we build together and we ask how their day is going. We give them whatever said literature, and you'll be surprised how intelligent some of these brothers and sisters are and how humble and loving they are. A lot of people know that they are Moors,
That's right.
and the most beautiful part is they've solved some sums that we haven't solved. So
Hmm.
sometimes they come with us with information like, "Hey, do you know about this demonstration or this form of education or whatever the case may be?" So I take notes. I believe everybody has opportunity to be teachers, and I'm a student of all men because they've done some things, they've experienced some things that I can learn from. So it's been a wonderful demonstration, a wonderful opportunity to be a pillar in that right here in Oakland. A lot of people have recognized the feds now. A lot of people know that when the Moors pull up, they're gonna have some essentials, whether it's hot food or blankets or medicine. It's gonna be something that's gonna benefit and aid and assist our brothers and sisters in our community here in Oakland. So we fed tens of thousands of people in the last 2 or 3 years. And it's surely just been an honor, to represent what it is to be a Moorish American on a weekly basis and get out there and feed our people and see the smiles on their faces when we pull up and when we leave, and just to aid and assist because that's what we've been instructed to do from our Prophet Noble Drew Ali.
Most
Islam.
definitely. Yeah, that's great work being done. In honors to the members of the ICCNC in
Islam.
allowing y'all not just the produce, but get involved with the actual warm meals as well. In honors to the Mufti and Sheikh, Brother Hatcher Bey, who you mentioned in regards to that demonstration. I know your
Islam.
assistant as well, Brother
King Ali Bey.
King Ali Bey is very
Islam.
involved as well. So you all are doing some great works there as well. I know
Islam.
as well. Recently, also involved in the demonstration is the Sheikhs there as well, Sister Rarity, um,
Islam. Islam.
as well. So with that being said, um, I want to connect with your recent experience um, as to what's being done on the Big Island in Hawaii. Right?
Islam.
There was what is referred to as the Morabatine Conference, the fifth annual Morabatine Conference, which you attended and partook in. But also in Hawaii, if one is now driving on the Big Island, you can like literally see, because myself and other Moors were part of that demonstration as well, where we went um, and adopt a highway sign that is now there is very historic and very impactful, just showing that Moors are really leaving their footprints clearly cut and making an impact. So not only adopt a highway, the Moor Science Temple of America, Hawaii, led by no other than the National Grand Chief of the United Moor Science Temple of America, Nathaniel Booth Ill, affectionately known as Cosmo Ill, his pen name, who you also spoke to about recently. Can you speak a little bit as to your experience? Because now the Moravian Conference have opened up the Camp Ali, the land itself, the retreat has opened up. What was that like staying on the land? What
Islam.
was that experience like? And yourself now being a direct investor in that, because I know you're part owner into that. Can you speak to that a little bit for those who might be interested and want to know what the experience is like?
Islam. Islam forever rising. Um, this was my second time participating in the conference, and it's beautiful to see the ideas that we spoke about, referring to our National Grand Sheik and I, about manifesting our own land.
Indeed.
We are a salvaged nation, and we are a nation of people. But right now, we don't have a land that we call our own. We don't have our grocery stores, we don't have our banks and our schools intact just yet.
That's right.
But it's not for us to wait for anybody else to do it. So a brother by the name of Akil Ali. He was able to buy a parcel of land. I think it's upwards of like 3 acres, and was able to cut it up into smaller plots to give more the opportunity to have some ownership. To
Yes.
build trust. And now, 2 or 3 years later, to see the growth of Camp Ali is truly beautiful. I remember it was a forest, just full of trees, and now it's 4 and 5 different structures. Inshallah, there'll be a mosque built by before this time next year. Next time we ever to visit Camp Ali and the Aloha Morris Retreat, it'll have several other structures. So it's beautiful to know that our National Grand Sheik is leaving his footprints clearly cut to see that he's doing what he said he was going to do. Me, myself, I've always had the opportunity to be under great leadership, great men doing things that they said that they were going to do. I think that's important when it comes to leadership, that we just, like you said, we leaving our footprints clearly cut. We're not being a block of wood. We're not just talking. We're actually active in our demonstration. So yes, we are a nation of people, but that
Yes.
hasn't necessarily been established yet. So we have to start small. It starts off now as maybe 3 to 5 acres in a small retreat, and then it grows into a village, and then it grows into a city, then it grows into a nation. So really, this is just the beginning. This is just the foundational pieces of something, inshallah, that'll become bigger. Me myself, I have a little experience in construction with being a cement mason. I was a cement mason for about 3 to 5 years, and I wasn't a journeyman. I wasn't the best, but I do look forward to getting out there and sharing my skill set. Whether
Okay.
it's paving a driveway or a sidewalk or creating steps or whatever is in my capability to build, and that'll be home for us. We need a safe haven for ourselves as Moorish Americans. We're not supposed to be living in the city, Grand Sheet. We're supposed to be living somewhere where we're homesteading, where we have all the essential needs to take care of ourselves. It was beautiful to go out to Hawaii and to be able to see the agriculture, and to be able to learn about the different fruits and vegetables and their healing properties, to be able to not have to rely on a grocery store. Everything you need is growing on the side or in the backyard, whether it's food we need to eat or any medicine we need to take. And that's what we need to have the mindset of as Moorish Americans. The prophet said that one day the European gonna let you down. These stores won't be available to you. And to have the ground roots that our National Grand Sheik is laying down now, we're just planting the seeds. And now I'm realizing how long it takes to cultivate fruit and vegetables. I thought, you put a seed in the ground and next season you bear fruit. But that's not how it works. It's a skill set.
That's right.
And our foremothers and forefathers, they knew how to grow things. They knew what elevation was needed to grow said plant, or how much water or how much attention the vegetables or the plant need to thrive. And that's the same thing with us as the seeds of Allah. We got to be in certain conditions and environments to be our best selves. And I believe that that's when we worship under our own vine and fig tree, and we're able to be self-sustaining. And again, that's a unity demonstration, because it's Moors from all over the nation that has the opportunity to go there and buy land and to come together and build the village. We spoke about some of the industrious Moors already creating schools out there in Hawaii, and I was able to press hands with another group of Moors that knew so much about agriculture, so much about plant life. And it was inspiring to see that is thousands of different fruits that I never even heard of that taste delicious, and they're growing right here on the side of the house. You wake up, you yawn, you stretch, you get your coffee, and you go pick whatever fruit that you want. That's organic. We're, here on the mainland, everything is GMO. Everything is not the way that Allah created it initially. They've kind of doctored it up a little bit, and it's not as healthy as it can and should be. So to see the demonstration in Hawaii, to see that they're stewarding the land, being an example that we can do it. We don't
That's
need
right.
1,000 people to come and do it. A saying that I heard when I was out there from one of the brothers, he was like, "Why not me?" We keep looking outward for somebody to come and kind
Right.
of do it for us.
Right.
You're able body. We got the wisdom and the knowledge now to learn. If you don't know, go study. Go see what you can lay down, and you come together and combine your resources and talk to other Moors and see how they're able to cultivate their land, and you combine ideas, and sooner or later, the children will be able to eat from the fruit that you planted 10 years from now, whether it's pineapples or apples or whatever the case may be. And they'll have a better sense of self. That's what we talk about, know thyself, and knowing how to take care of yourself and have the essential needs and things growing. That's what's beautiful to me, that it's just growing right there in front of you. So it's a beautiful opportunity for us as Moorish Americans to see the possibilities of man. We talk about purchasing some unincorporated land here on the mainland, and that has its challenges. The rules and laws are a little bit more lenient over there in Hawaii. So that's a beautiful opportunity for us to show what it looks like, what it feels like, and to sleep in the forest. I slept like a baby, Grand Sheik. It
Wow.
was so it felt so natural. A lot of us often put on what we call white noise to kind of help us relax and stuff. We had natural white noise. We heard the frogs and the birds and all of these things. I felt at peace. Everything
Indeed.
was just slowed down. It wasn't the rat race that we're competing on every single day here on the mainland. It just felt like I was my what we call our ancient future self. Yes, we in this new era in time, but we can go back to the ways of our foremothers and forefathers and just slow down a little bit. No materialism. People out there with no shoes on and totally comfortable with their condition, because their condition may not be familiar to us because we got accustomed to something. We're spoiled here. We don't have to know how to plant anything or clean up and slaughter our own meat or any of those things. We kind of just call somebody else. Everybody's one phone call away, but when it takes time to serve ourselves, we don't have that skill set. And our National Grand Sheik Cosmo Ill is reminding us that we can do things on our own. We can have our own Moorish American village, which I think will grow, and it will grow into a town, into a city, and people will recognize that we can have these small pockets of our own land everywhere, and that'll just help us unify and become a nation again, inshallah.
Inshallah. Indeed. I see what you're saying clearly. It takes a village to raise a child. The village becomes
Islam.
the town becomes the city, and the city becomes, beyond that, nations, etc. But the nation is always that nucleus of the family, of course. And I like the way you put it, just to be able to be out there in nature and be able to do one's self. A lot
Islam.
of the various different communities, and this is where the disconnect came in, where one actually traveled from what was considered the country into the city, trade, and go back to the
Islam.
country. But now
Islam.
we don't have that dynamics because people are just now in the city because they were disconnected. So, with that being said, we're going to go again to a quick commercial. And as we come back, we're going to wrap up with just speaking about the enterprise and innovation. Speak a little bit about your clothing line and things of that nature.
Islam.
So
Islam.
again, this is Universal Pathways. I'm Curtis Douglas Ill, and today I'm in the studio with Grand Sheik William Osiris Bey. We'll be right back after this commercial. Welcome, viewers in America and those worldwide. This is Universal Pathway, and I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Ill. With our show, viewers get to hear our guests share their life lessons from a universal perspective so others can benefit. You can view us live at MillenniumTV24.com Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on all iOS and Android devices via our app. You can also view us on all smart TVs, Sony, Samsung, LG, also on Amazon, Fire Stick, Roku, Apple TV, Horizon Satellite, and most social media such as Facebook and YouTube. Please encourage others to come and view us with an open mind. Welcome back. Again, I'm in the studio today with Grand Chief William Osiris Bay, and we've been talking about a lot. And right now, we're at the very end, and I just want to give him the opportunity to speak about his clothing line, The Chosen Few.
Islam.
Real quick, why that name, and how has that been going for you?
Islam. Again, forever rising. The chosen few. Um, wow. I started the clothing line before I was really conscious of self. Well, we know that man plans and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners. So when I came up with this said clothing line, it was because it was during a time where people were talking about branding. I was still kind of early in the social media age, and I just wanted to brand myself. I believe that the clothes didn't make me; I made the clothes. So I wanted to think of something that was not just a name, but more like a statement.
That's right.
I wanted to show the youth that, and myself really, that um, what we wear is a reflection of who we are.
That's
So I wanted to just wear my own clothes. I was tired of spending so much money on what I called foreign clothing. A lot of people at the time, people was wearing a lot of European brands like Gucci or Louis Vuitton or things of that nature. And I wanted to make something that was made by myself, but was also, cool to wear. So that was in 2013,
wow.
Grand Sheet. So that was quite some time ago now. And I chose the number seven. To me, seven was correlated with not just myself, with all humanity. We got 7 days of the week, seven colors of the rainbow, seven chakras, seven seas, seven continents. But with myself, my name is William, and that has 7 letters. My last name is Collins, which was 7 letters. My daughter name is Lanaya, which was 7 letters. So I implemented the number seven to my demonstration, not knowing that Allah was divinely connecting me to what was going to be my future purpose. So again, when I saw the circle seven, I was like, that number looks familiar. It was attractive to me. It was a connection. And the chosen few, it's a popular Bible verse. I believe it's Matthew 22, verse 14, that many are called, but few are chosen. So I didn't look at it to be a popular brand. I wanted to be the chosen few, people that knew themselves, people that loved themselves, people that had certain characteristics and principles about themselves, and they can relate to the signs and symbols for the conscious mind. So I would, once I became conscious of myself, maybe in like 2019 or 2020, I would change some of the logos, and I would put the logos of the Moorish American. So a lot of my customers are Asiatic brothers and sisters, or rather conscious or unconscious. But the symbols that they was wearing, they just liked it, the chosen few. But I would use like the fez or number seven or the compass in the square, so that they will be uh, representative of more science while wearing a statement clothing or urban clothing. I primarily create T-shirts and sweatsuits because, again, it was for myself. I'm, in the athletic field and things of that nature. But it's been beautiful to just correlate what was imagined in 2013 and to see that it was all in alignment with who I was going to become as a Moorish American. And Allah governs all events, so it's been a beautiful journey. I'm not really in it to make money or to get rich from it, but it was a reflection of my creativity and what I saw fit at that time to create and to brand myself. Islam.
Uh, well said. I say, stay open, because, you're doing what you love,
Islam.
and the workman is worthy of his hire. I
Islam.
know today some might be hearing some of the more jargon for the first time, but it is our culture, and it's good to be able to speak in your culture. And ones, as they now study themselves, this language, this logo science become more familiar. It's truly an honor just to hear what the Grand Sheik is doing in Oakland. Like you said, a chosen few. The chosen few that have heard this broadcast today, it is our hope that you will share it with others. Because, like he said, a lot of us who are melanated do not know our true history. And it's the goal of everyone who is wearing these fezes and turbans to teach our people. It is said in More Science, how did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish American? By teaching them to be themselves. Grandchick William Osiris Amaru Bey is doing a tremendous job, beautiful in the community of Oakland. I myself is here in New York, Queens specifically, and we do various different things as our outreach. And I'm truly honored to be working with Millennium News 24, Millennium TV and Broadcasting, and Millennium TV USA, the various different aspects of it, to be able to spread the news, the word, and make an impact. Just like the motto with Millennium News 24, they are bridging the gap worldwide when it comes to information, when it comes to news, with integrity, honesty, truth, and trust. So it's the same principle within More Science. It is our hope to be able to help humanity to be uplifted. So honest to you being here. Any last thoughts, my good brother, to our viewers? And where can they get your book and your
Gratitude, Brother Curtis Douglas Seal, for allowing me to, express myself and my personal understanding on this platform. My book, The ABCs for the Moorish American Family, can be found on any major platform, whether it's Barnes & Nobles, Amazon. You can just type it in Google and you can find the book. I do have a website, theindustriousmore.com, where you can find some of my merch. And what else? I would just encourage people to study themselves, to know thyself and to live in the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Love being the strongest principle, in our salvation. So I just leave you with that, Moors. I just wanted to be brief and just say high honors to all of you Moors, both private and public, for the industrious works that we're doing individually and collectively. That's all.
Thank you again, Grandchick William Osiris Bey. I hope to have you back soon,
Islam.
inshallah. Thank you to our viewers for viewing the show Universal Pathway today here on Millennium News 24 Network. We hope our listening audience has been edified and encouraged. And it's truly an honor to be able to be building with my brother, the Grand Sheik out of Oakland, William Osiris Bey. Peace and love to you all, and peace and love to you, my good brother.
Peace and love, Islam, gratitude, Islam, peace and love.
This is Universal Pathway, and I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Hill.
Islam.
Islam.